Welcome to SomeGuy's Garage. Today I'm going to show you how I built this kneeling bench, which can be used for yoga, meditation, or prayer. I made it as a gift for someone, and though I don't do a lot of woodworking, it's a bit more special this way. It's also something most people could make with just simple tools at home. To start with, I went to a local wood supplier and got a pre-planed 1-inch thick by 8-inch wide by 5-foot long plank of wormy maple. This is a bit longer than needed, but would let me cut out some of the rough sections of the wood. Before I built the actual one, I made a quick test bench out of some scrap 2x6 and plywood. This way I could check sizing before building the actual one, and I'd highly recommend doing this. 18 to 20 inches wide and 6 to 7 inch high legs seemed about right. I began by laying out the cuts I needed to make on the wood with a pencil, measuring tape, and square. I then cut the main pieces for the 2 legs and the top on a miter saw. You could easily use a circular saw, jigsaw, or even a handsaw for this. Next, since I don't have a jointer, I used my table saw to square up the edges. You could also do this with a hand planer or even a sander, though it would take longer. I also cut the legs around a 1/2 inch narrower than the top on the table saw, so the legs would be slightly inset from the edges. Once the wood was square, I laid out the angles for the legs to 15 degrees, and again cut them on the miter saw. Using some of the small scraps, I also cut 2 small braces to attach underneath the bench for extra strength. I mitered these to match the angles of the legs as well, though this isn't necessary. With all of the pieces cut, I marked on the wood the leg positions, inset from the edge a board width, and also marked where to drill. I drilled through the top for a couple of screws per leg, and then countersunk the holes. You could also use a Craig jig or dowel pins from the bottom if you didn't want screws in the top, but this way is much easier to build. I then did the same with the leg braces, laying them out, drilling, and countersinking. I screwed the entire thing together temporarily just to ensure it all fit properly before moving on to the next step. To take off the sharp edges, I used a round-over bit on a router. If you don't have a router, you could just sand down all of the edges instead. I did this on both sides of the top and the sides of the legs, but I didn't do the top and bottom of the legs, those just got a light sanding. After routing everything, I sanded all of the surfaces with 220 grit sandpaper on a random orbital sander to remove marks and smooth things out. Then, using wood glue, I permanently attached the legs, followed by the braces. In the screw holes on the top, I used wood filler to hide the holes and allowed it to dry. Then, once dry, I sanded them down flush and gave the entire thing a once-over with sandpaper again. Although this looks quite nice as is, I wanted to match the person's furniture, and so I got the matching gel stain. And once I cleaned the wood thoroughly, gave it 2 coats of stain to finish it off. And here's the final product. A bit more sanding might have yielded a more even finish, though the rustic look works here. Also, make sure you remove any glue that squeezes out of the joints. Stain will not stick to it, as you can see here. Overall, this is a fairly easy project that most people could do with simple tools at home. Give it a try and let me know how it goes in the comments below. Anyway, that's all for today. If you aren't already subscribed, please consider it. And as always, thanks for watching.